countdown is on until the official start of hurricane season. The Eastern Pacific, the EPAC, that gets going tomorrow. We've only got a couple weeks and some change until June 1st. That's the start of the Atlantic Basin hurricane season. Most of the chatter in the lead up to this season has been about the potential Super El Niño and its impact on tropical activity in both basins. So let's dive more into this. Fox Weather hurricane specialist Bryan Norcross joins us now. Bryan, you got a special guest coming up in Hurricane HQ&A this afternoon. It's the lead of the National Weather Service, the director, Ken Graham. I actually remember, it was like 10 years ago, meeting Ken. He was a meteorologist in charge out of New Orleans. Went to lead the NHC, right, and now he's got the big chair at the whole National Weather Service. Bryan, this is a guy that knows tropical weather. What are you most excited to talk to him about this afternoon?
Well, there are just a ton of things to talk to Ken about, including, remember all the bad news coming out of the Weather Service, so bad publicity and the difficulties with staffing and people leaving and so forth. Well, when I saw Ken in January, he was very enthusiastic about what's going on and the hiring that's going on and the kind of people that they're bringing in and the changes that they're making. So I want to talk to Ken all about that and what the status is of the National Weather Service now. Now, the National Hurricane Center is kind of a subdivision of the National Weather Service that focuses on hurricanes. But also, as we've talked about so much, well, how about these new AI models and the rate that technology is changing? I'll be really interested to see what Ken has to say about that and how all that is going to work with the GFS, which has kind of become kind of a laggard, right, of the models, and how things are going to change, because I know things are changing quickly within the Weather Service as well as what we see.
Yeah, Bryan, we live in a two-screen world. This is happening at the top of the hour. That's the part of it that I want to hear about. You know, my curiosity with the AI side of this. But I have to ask you about this morning's update on the El Nino Climate Prediction Center. You talked over the years, year after year, you mentioned the springtime predictability barrier, or what's there sometimes. This year, I'm looking at the new numbers, 82% chance of this coming May through July. I mean, we're right there, fractionally off. 96%. It doesn't seem like there's much of a barrier this year.
Well, it does look like the signal is so strong that the models are just latching onto it and saying, no, we're going to have an El Nino. Now, the question is still, how strong will it be? And the question is, in that box of water south of Hawaii, scientific analysis over the years has determined that when that gets super warm, that creates upper level winds over the Atlantic that are unfavorable for hurricane development, or at least kind of squashes the hurricane season to some degree. There you can see the model forecast, and notice the average line comes right over the 2 degrees Celsius line. That 2 on the left means 2 degrees Celsius above normal. Now, there's a wrinkle here, though, and that is what above normal means. Has changed this year. It's different than it was last year. So this year, it's not above the just average water temperatures in that box, which is the way for years and years and years and always we did it. This year, they look at the overall tropics because the Earth is just warmer. So the overall tropics, and the analysis is that the contrast of the water in that box with the overall tropics is what counts. And because the overall tropics are warmer than normal, it kind of pushes everything up. So the typical scale that we use, the one you were looking at, it looks like that average line goes right up to the 2 degrees, but actually there's about 0.6 degrees that everything gets pushed up with this new relative measurement of water temperature. So whether it ends up being above that 2 degrees, which is this, it's not technically Super El Nino, but that's what people call it, or it's just a strong El Nino just below that, all those do have a significant effect on the hurricane season.
So with the relative aspect of this, would that have an exaggerating effect, or that would be the opposite of that if we do get to the 2 degree?
Yes, exactly. If on that scale it gets to 2 degrees, it's really not in the relative scale,
Right.
which is the one we use today to designate it an El Nino. But in any case, any kind of warming up in that area has a significant effect. And also, if you go back to the map that shows the general water temperature there in the Eastern Pacific, to the northeast of the El Nino box, up toward Mexico and up to California, it's extremely warm. And what that means is that if a storm gets up in there, it's going to have a lot more fuel to work with up in that area. So these temperatures that you see, I don't know if we can bring up that map. So there you see that plume of warm water coming from California, Mexico, down to south of Hawaii. If we get a storm in there, first of all, that is going to mean if it heads toward Hawaii, it's going to be stronger than it might otherwise have been if it weren't quite that warm. And there's just more warmth and moisture in the air there offshore of California and Mexico. So if we get a plume of moisture going north, there's just going to be more going into the southwest. So quite often when we have an El Nino, a couple things happen in California. One is you get tolerable ocean temperatures for swimming, at least for Florida people like me. And you also tend to get more rain in California and the desert southwest. This map, remember, is relative to normal. So the water off of California and northern Mexico is still quite cool for this time of year. It's still May, but it is warmer than normal. So the expectation is it will be considerably warmer than normal when we get to the summer.
Yeah, that makes it a touch more enticing than actuality. But the last thing folks in Hawaii want is any storm of impact with what they've been going through. Bryan, actually, later on in the 5 o'clock hour, we're going to be speaking with a representative from the state of Hawaii talking about the lost tourism, $300 million just in the month of March, and that was related to the Kona lows. Before we let you go, for folks that maybe haven't tuned into one of these Hurricane HQ&As before, what can they expect? How can they participate?
Well, this is really a live podcast, is the best way to describe it. So if you go on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, or LinkedIn, we're going to be streaming live. And whatever platform you're on, you can send in questions. And we take them in New York. Jordan Overton kind of runs this for us. And he'll direct the questions to me and to Ken. And we'll address as many as we can. And we'll talk to Ken beginning at 4 o'clock. So on your favorite social media platform, you're going to find us live here coming up in about, a little over 20 minutes. Yeah,
no Vine, no MySpace, because they don't exist anymore. Mm-hmm. But the other ones that are still operating, you can find that man right there.
We're on a lot of them. We're doing like 10 streams. That's right.
Fox Weather Hurricane Specialist Bryan Norcross. We're looking forward to that. Thank you. And you can catch Bryan's live Hurricane HQ&A. That's coming up at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. All the logos, of which there are many, right there. Be sure to check that out. Send those questions in too. Ken and Bryan, there's no two better folks to get those questions answered for you.